Good day and welcome back to the Terran Music and the game of Hannes Bradberg versus Brian Weber, one of the games which was recommended to me, and you can now read in the top left where you can recommend games to my email address, and then I will cast your games, because it's always nice to have some community input as well as me not longer having the time to watch the stream 24/7 and select all the best games there are. So this week I had a lot of recommendations. Someone gave out my email address on the Twitch chat, so it got around and I got some recommendations which I like, and I will try to cast them all. I will cast them all actually. And someone also said, well, I couldn't really find where to submit games for the cast, so I took the liberty of making a new overlay so you can see where to send it. And if you've been reading well, you can also see that we would like your support. And because I think we've got 30 seconds to have the game run by its own, I must show you the website. And of course the yellow ratings are all good and well, but we've got a Patreon account as well, and that has got to do with the fact that Michael has finally gotten his own research group on at the Technical University of Prague, so congratulations for that. And it also is, well, we started this Patreon to generate some revenue, and this will allow you to sponsor us directly, not only if you can spend the time. Like us on YouTube, on Facebook, subscribe, spread the word, but we also like you to make some donations. We've got 2 subscribers already for $18 a month, and what this basically is that we would like to have the hardware and the hosting sponsored. Michael's doing that all by himself now. And for the research group, it says here that in the European Union it's hard to get funding for AI research, which is not really, it's a large deal, but in Prague it's a little bit different. It's, well, a small, freshly started research group, so we would like to help you to support it. And I can also show you the research group website. Who are we, what they do, please check it out. The address is, well, this gas.fel.cvut.cz for the Czech Republic, and basically it's going to be about StarCraft Brood War, and there is also a lot of other interesting stuff happening for all kinds of nice projects. You should really check it out. And of course the members of the project is Michael Chatichki, and I hope I pronounced your name right, and he's got some underlings which will be working hard at the project and at their own research. So if you like them, not only give them a shout out, but also try to make a little bit of a donation on Patreon. The button is on the main website, it's at the left. You can support us and we would really appreciate that. So let's see where the game has got to. The game is still bubbling along nicely, so let's have a last look at the results. And you can see that Crazio still on top. His ELO rating is really off the charts, approaching 2500. And the other good news is that McRae is really inching its way up there, has overtaken Iron, and then comes Microwave, Killerbot, Purple Wave, and then the rest. TSCMU is dropping off a bit, and that may have something to do with TSCMU doing all kinds of ridiculous build orders. Expect something better from him for the main tournament. So it's still Crazio against the world, and now really without further ado, let's get back into the game. I haven't seen these games myself, so either it's going to be what has been come to be called a potato game where everything goes wrong, or it will become something truly beautiful. So we see a couple of barracks from Bradberg, and they go off in their traditional scouting pattern, and skirmish with some Zerglings, and Brian Weber going for the expansion. 2 Sunkens, rather not really many SCVs, they're called drones for the Zerg if I'm not mistaken. And Marine count is now at an adequate level where it can fend off the Zerglings. And of course we've got the Academy ready. The worker count is nice and high. It's 20 versus 8 and also 2 Sunkens. That's a lot of money and a lot of drones. Well, it's 20% of the drones if you count 10, so that's a lot. This is not a new base being taken, that's an Overlord. And the Zerglings are now shutting down the new base. And the Marines really haven't got that much of a clue. And it's unfortunate that Bradberg isn't really incorporating the odd medic, because medics with stim and the occasional fire bat would pull through this bunch of lings no problem. But by this time, and he got a round of drones, that's always good to see, the Ling army has grown really impressively. So now it's up to the Lings to contend with the Zerglings in the middle of the map. Nice scan there going off, and I need to make this a little bit quieter. So that's a lot better. And I think this Overlord is finally going to have it this time. But the Lings are sort of holding the Marines at bay, and perhaps the Overlord can still escape. The problem will be not the medics, but eventually there will be ghosts and nukes, of course, by Bradberg. And that will be a major problem for Zerglings. Then again, let's see what Weber is up to now at 15 workers. And still a lot of basic units, now stacking a lot of money for reasons, going for a lair. And the Zerg army, the Ling army, is really impressive. One Hydra fights and a couple of Ling dies, but it's still 14, it's 28 Zerglings, and it's unfortunate that so many of them die needlessly. There is a bunch of Lings here, and they could cut into the reinforcements, are not doing so. Third base being taken by Weber. And Weber now at 17 workers, 2 Sunkens, and combat simulator, the decision of when to fight and when not. Oh, I like this. Look at the minimap. Every time not a unit is in sight, the Marines will spread out, and now they will probably find, yeah, the Sunkens. And the Sunkens, of course, do quite well against Marines without upgrades, without medics, and especially Marines running in and out like that. This Sunken has only taken about half damage now and is probably going to die, but at what cost? Look at all the Marines which have fallen, and now it's 7, 8 Marines versus 13. Now 10, 14, 16 Marines versus 10 army supply for Zerg. Third base is operational and worker count still 15, and that's really low. But Bradberg has been let out of the box and is now going for a spread of command centers. The covert ops is bleeping, and you know what that means, hammer time. Third base being taken from Bradberg, and still the worker count of Weber, I find that terribly low. And the unit composition is bad, and also the units keep dying left and right. So that's unfortunate. But the Marines are all running. Their decision making isn't that top notch either. But here we go. First silo construction has started, and the Marines are now trying to do battle with the Zerg. The Zerg still at a respectable level, but this worker count is just way too low, and it's only 3 hatcheries, which are now the bottleneck for Brian Weber. If you're on 3 bases, you could do with 5 hatcheries at least, or with some ridiculously expensive units, so you don't need as many larvae. And you can also see that there is quite a bit of money, and gas harvesting is only happening at 1 base. So for the benefit of macro, you should really build 1 or 2, 3 more hatcheries. You have more larvae at your disposal, and you don't get, oh dear, there we go, another silo. And this base, well, you shouldn't really build a silo there because it's not really safe. And this SCV is going to get killed. And the Marines are in relatively small numbers. There are only 23 and a handful of ghosts. And that means unfortunate balances of power, because versus Hydra's, Marines aren't really all that good, especially not if they decide to fight all of them together instead of 4 at once and distribute damage between all these Marines equally. That's not good. Oh, that's pretty ballsy. I don't think that's the right place to take 4th, and you can see the worker count is slowly getting higher. Gas mining now also starting at the 3rd and the Nat and the 3rd. The problem is that the ghosts have arrived. They've got cloak, and although they do absolutely ridiculously low damage to any kind of unit with their main attack, oh, there we go. And where is it going to land? Oh, yeah, caught it this time. And that was really a stroke of luck that I caught that game. And there we go. Here it goes, and boom. Okay, minor damage to 2 Sunkens, or 3 Sunkens. 1 dies, a couple of units die, and that's that. So immediately upon seeing this, I thought, well, how many nukes can you build? That's another silo. The 4th base has been taken down, and this base is now under attack. And it's now waiting for all these Marines and Ghosts to die. There is an Overlord overhead, so even though cloaked, these Ghosts are going to die in ludicrous numbers. Because storming a sunken encampment with a Ghost is not really worth it. And these Ghosts should also be very careful about planting nukes at this end of the map. I am going to have a small peek at the... where can I see how many nukes there are? There are only Ghosts. It's 12 Ghosts versus 5 Zerglings and 3 Hydras. Army-wise, this game is really wild, out of control. And the Ghosts are running away with this. There are so many that they can take down the occasional Hydra and Zergling. But now some units will be dying. And look at how many Ghost shots this Hydra can take. It's really out of this world. There is 1, 2, 3 nukes are building at the same time, and you can see that reflected in Redberg's supply. Ghosts aren't nukes aren't really counting to the total. Perhaps only when they are finished. I'm going to speed it up just a notch because it's going to take forever. And what can we see? Oh, there's the nuke. Oh, and that's really well placed. Out of reach of the Overlord. And now there is only 1 Sunken left. So as soon as this... oh, there are... Ooh, the mutas are out, but they get nuked immediately. That's unfortunate. This one took a bit of a radiation hit on its tail. And this game seems to be run. So, yeah, there we go. Terran now in firm control, taking down the Sunken with Marines and Ghosts. And the waiting is for more nukes to fall. Oh, we caught one just there. Oh, that was pretty well done by me. Oh, and another one. Hello. And will there be one here as well? Presumably, I don't know. Just going to see. And this is the good game. So, Bradberg winning over Brian Weber. And now it's Øyvind Johansen versus Nightcat. And I got this game recommended by someone. Don't really know by whom anymore because I didn't keep track of that. I'm terribly sorry. I will try to do that for the next broadcast if I hopefully get a lot of recommendations. And we see Nightcat, the bot, which has been developed for big game hunters and has been slowly adapting to normal money maps. It gathers a wave of units and will send it out then, and you can see Johansen rolling all over the map. This is really, it's like watching Gambot. Look at how many nexus there are. It's really wild. And then a lot of cannons. This build order is out of control, and it can only happen because Nightcat is sitting back with 35 army supply, and the army supply of Johansen is 2 with 78 workers at the 7-minute mark. So that's quite impressive. We've got a core now, and we've got a lot of infrastructure being built. And look at the number of workers. We've got almost 80 workers and only 6 army supply. That's really wild. And that's more than half of the bases being taken. The only bases not taken are the ones touching the base of Nightcat. So perhaps there is an idea with that. Meanwhile, the army supply difference is 40 in the advantage of Nightcat. And there are a lot of medics as well. Oh, and there they go. This is going to be bloody. Because how on earth, even with this infrastructure, how are you going to put out enough units to stop this Terran death snake? It's not really a bull at this point. It's a snake. And that's quite impressive because it's meandering nicely through the map. There is a lot of awesome gateway units by Johansen, but it's still 34 versus 59, and the units are all running, so that's pretty useless. I saw a Dark Templar somewhere. Oh, and there is a... oh, wow, this is ridiculous. Johansen putting all the stops and not fighting, that's really out of control. Could do with a Reaver or a Storm, because this bio mess would die rather easily to that. And now the cannon is fighting, it cannot run, so it must fight. But the main army is hiding out there, and there are some units being sent over from this base, even a scout. And I say macro-wise, Johansen is doing really well. It's got 56 army supply now, sacrificing a natural and a couple of buildings. It's okay. but eventually it will have to fight, really, because you can't really let that happen into your main base. And now the Zealots are going to run straight through, oh god! And they evacuate the main base and leaving the probes to fend for themselves. And that's really bad. The cannons, though, are in a nice straight line, so they can do something, with a couple of Zealots catching some flak from the Marines, but now with only 3 or 4 cannons. Oh, and the cannons actually do manage to hold the base somewhat. And this game is really wild. We've got gateways all over the place. Nightcat is in a good position with 40 army supply, and now the main base has been not completely pacified. Oh, should tone this down a little bit. Otherwise I'll have to scream so loud, and that doesn't really do. And Johansson holds the main base and now has the army advantage and production all over the place. We've got a fleet beacon, we've got, because it's got destroyed in the main base, we've got the cyber core there, and these stupid units, they refuse to fight versus Marines with only stim, which means they've got ridiculously low health by the time they get any fighting done. And now the Zealots are coming off and they kill everything. So again, Johansson in an okay position, but I really wonder what the eventual game plan is going to be, because this is just plain bad. And we see here that we've got 4 bases now for Nightcat and a handful of gateway units into this base. That's pretty well, but losing, fighting in the main base again. And now with a carrier versus Marines and a handful of gateway units, this game is wild. But they're bringing the fighting to Nightcat's 4th or 3rd, I didn't really pay attention. Alleviate some of the pressure in the main base, and the main base is still standing miraculously. The Nexus is nearly dead. The probes are still there in 75 versus 58 workers, and all the medics are being cut to pieces. This one carrier, let's see, have we got the, we haven't even got the more interceptors upgrade. Johansson is really running out of control with this cave, now sacrificing the carrier and sacrificing a lot of gateway units, but it's got so much economy. Now a Reaver, that's really going to cut into this measly army, and we've got 2 carriers now without the upgrade for interceptors. So macro-wise doing okay, decision-making wise could be a little bit better. And unit composition is finally there, but was slow to take off. The Nexus is slowly regenerating, and as there is production all over the map, I'd say that Johansson is in a pretty good position. It's now nearly maxed, and you will see this income skyrocket. You'll see the money being stacked. Oh, and this is going to be a problem, because if you are maxed, you can't really defend anything if your entire army is here. And again, we see that the Protoss units aren't really fighting as efficiently as they could. And now this base is going to be mown down, surely, because... Oh, there are 4 Marines, and the medics are all in front, so that's not really working. But the Goon is firing at the medics, and now the Marines have got free range of this base. And despite having 3 carriers and 2 Reavers, 4 carriers, losing a couple of carriers, this is absolutely not going to work. A handful of Zealots cut down the Marines here, and the Goon is in pursuit of some medics, and I think that Johansson has got a really good position. It's got an army which is worth double in supply and must be worth at least 10 times the firepower. But they all run and they don't get any fighting done, so that's really unfortunate. Allowing Nightcat to run up, to construct another army, taking down a base, taking down another base, and now we've got an Archon, but they all don't fight, and that's really stupid. That said, the main for Nightcat is out, and Nightcat will have to play containment because it's going to be a bloody mess. And the Protoss army is so strong. The Natural is mining out as well, and that will be 2 versus the map, 2 bases versus the map. This base is finally going to fall, but it really boggles my mind the way this Protoss army is fighting, or I should say running. And judging by the name, Oyvind isn't French, so I can't really wrap my head around it, but now it's 1 base versus the map, and this game is over. Congratulations to Johansson. Might be a little bit better on the decision making and when to attack, but macro wise it's doing quite okay. Going to call the GG and hop into the next game, which is, oh god, another Redbird game. I should really be careful about these Redbird games, because although they are funny, doing only nukes is rather predictable, and yeah, as you can see, this game bugs out, sort of. because Bradberg is on base with a lot of money in the bank, and Literbot isn't doing anything at all. So this doesn't work. Sorry, next game. And I got this from the author of Wilbot, and versus Roman Danielis. Of course, it's a 2013 bot, last update before the 2013 finals. It can do everything, but it's rather slow to do so, and will occasionally play very nice games with Disruption Web and whatnot. So let's see how it's going to play this game. Wilbot being rather on the safe side with 2 bunkers, only 1 barracks, so 2 barracks now. So should be good, especially since there is only 1 zealot on the march. And there we go. Going for 3 gateways, handful of zealots positioned at the other choke, which is not really going to be vulnerable anytime soon, but you never know. And Wilbot is going for a small bio army, lots of money in the bank. That's really where you should take a natural base, but whoa, what can you do? And now Danielis is going for the zealot push, behind that taking the natural with the nexus there. And that's really good thinking, because as soon as you're putting pressure on the enemy can't put pressure on you, and you've got the time to put out another base. That's quite a formidable small army for the early stages of 1 base. Okay, but it's all right. And Daniel is now sitting cozily on 2 bases, building some goons, not getting overboard on the workers, and worker-wise this is quite equal. Now the natural also being started by Wilbot, so by the time these 2 armies will meet, it will be a larger scale battle, and this is exactly what you shouldn't let Roman Danielis do, because if you give it time, if you don't put pressure on it, it will bring all kinds of, oh that's pretty nice, destroying natural buildings without splash damage, so neutral, so there might be 10-ish power generators stacked there, but this Terran army is really getting out of control. That's 16 army supply and growing, so that's nicely done. And the 3rd base for Danielis is up with 2 cannons for defense, 1 at the natural, and Danielis is now leaving the base. This 1 zealot is left to kill this one or this group of stacked power generators. And you can see the armies are really large. You've got the first Corsairs, unfortunate that Wilbot doesn't seem to have any air units, but it's a nice touch and might provide some scouting information. Another base is going to be taken, and Wilbot isn't protecting the 3rd, so the 3rd is reduced to rubble. And now the Terran army is on the march with the tanks, with the Stim Bio, with medics and fire bats. And you can see the Terran army sort of holding its supply levels, and the Protoss army sort of evaporating, and that's a nice disruption web, and that will give Protoss the edge to push it, the Terran army back a little bit. The tanks are on the run, full retreat, but now with the defensive position, handful of tank siege, these goons are for the long jump. And lots of cannons all over the place, 4th base being taken. The army of Danielis is non-existent virtually. Oh, in a Dark Archon, I like that. I really like Danielis' play, and Wilbot is not going to attack. It should really move out a little bit. 3rd base being reconstructed, and that's going to be, no, that's not going to be the 4th base. And now we've got 5 bases, 1, 2, 3, 4th base being taken by Danielis. Danielis now with the high-tech army, with the Dark Templars. Of course there are comsats, so that shouldn't really be a problem. And Wilbot doesn't really seem to be using these comsats for scouting. So this Protoss army might have a chance if these Dark Templar, yeah, they're 1 scan lost, and that's unfortunate. And that was a scan from the main base. So about 6 scans left. Dark Archon, what's it going to do? Perhaps feed back a couple of medics. We will see. There we go. Yeah, that was 1. That was 2. So 2 medics feed back already, and now it retreats back home, just to get back into safety. Disruption web rather well placed on the tanks. I like that. That's a nice touch. And that is something that these new school bots should do more. Especially, I think McRave could make use of it in its struggle to be free from the Terran dominance. Perhaps these Corsairs with their disruption web might be the key. And now with 91 army supply, the Terran Death Ball is moving out. We've got 1 Reaver. The Protoss army is there, sort of, but it's really scrambling to get produced at this time. And we've got a shuttle. We've got a lot of units. but they're all over the place, and that's not really how it should be done, especially not if this... Why is that shuttle trying to catch the Dark Archon? Another medic feedbacked. And now the cannons are going to get ranged by the tanks. A lot of bio walking into it, dying a little bit, but there is just so much. It's 100 versus 34 army supply. And Wilbot is going to have to fight hard. There is one Reaver, it evaporates. And Wilbot is retreating for reasons. Now having taken the 4th base, 3rd base operational. And this is not a base though, that's a Scouting Marine. And these tanks are being left siege, and they can do an awful lot of damage because these Protoss units are being filtered in one at a time, getting off only 2 shots, and that's just a lot of damage for the Terran Delta. And now the Terran army is moving out again with 91 supply. These tanks are still there. There is one DT which will cut it down, the tank army, but still I think that the Protoss won't have much of an army by the time the Terran wave hits again. And there we go, now into the natural. The cannons there die, and I'm speeding it up just a tiny little notch. That's a lot of cannons and a Reaver on high ground, so that's good. And now the Terran army is running off again. That's very unfortunate. And Terran has got a lot of money in the bank. It's really struggling to produce the large army it needs, and you can see it producing from all factories and barracks, and that's really a lot of army. And I think that when it will hit 91-ish, that, yeah, there we go, it will move out again. Protoss by this time still hasn't got much of an army. A couple of storms would be good. And there we go, the conflict is on. The Dark Templars sort of evaporate, and with the tanks and the Stim medics, oh, that nice D-web again. But this Reaver is going to die, and now Protoss is still left with 23 army supply. Terran taking another base. And this is just going to go on forever. Terran retreating. And sorry for speeding this up. You can't see this because of the overlay, but there is a lot of game left in this one. And the Terran has got a lot of army supply, but really can't make it across the map. And is coming in again. Hitting the main base, but oh, we're making up the ramp this time. And then retreating all of a sudden. Oh, and then the Terran army supply is gone because Terran is mined out, and Protoss is taking down the last Terran base, and that's really unfortunate. So Terran has got one last big army and is making the Protoss run for it, but the Protoss are now on the march with these Dark Templar. You can see it army-wise, it's 60 versus 40, and although there is a last bit of resistance going on here, the Dark Templars are in the last mining base for Wilbot, and Wilbot, although it's got quite an impressive bank, it can't really outproduce the Protoss at this moment. Oh, that was a storm, I missed that, that was very unfortunate. But we've got a handful of carriers now, I think about 4. Protoss is on 60 army supply, hasn't really got that much of an income either. Could take this base with its last dying breath, but it will be a war of attrition. And the carriers are so strong. And you can see now Terran taking this last base, and this might where it comes down to the wire, because this base will be all important. It's last bit of money. Oh, and this one too. And Protoss will not take that because, I don't know. And that's really, I think, where you're going to lose this game. Wilbot's still got some money in the bank. Its army is now growing, and Protoss army is sort of stuck at 65. Not really mining anymore. And the Protoss army in a death ball is tightly packed. It's going for the last mining base, but you can see Wilbot has already mined half of it out, and now the Protoss army is tearing into the Marines, but there are so many Marines, and even though there is a storm and there are a couple of Reavers, Danielis hasn't got the money for Scarabs anymore, or Interceptors. It's really out of money, it's got to make do, and let's see how many Interceptors. 8 Interceptors left and 26 Scarabs, so that's a lot of Scarabs, but I think Wilbot with its army, it could still win, easily. It's now taking down the main base. And again. And now Wilbot is all over this, taking the last base. And now the army is going to sit back into the corner. And gas is being mined. It's over, I think. And this game is going to time out. GG, I think it will go on points to Wilbot. So let's hop into the next game. It's going to be McRae versus Ironbot. And I like that because earlier I told you Crazy is still on top with an ELO margin of about 200 points. McRave has overtaken Iron, and perhaps in this game we will see how that is being done. I should check out how long of a broadcast I've got by now. I think it's too long, so perhaps I should take some more games. Well, I've got 2 more after this one. It's not the last game. But I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out. This SCV is doing a lot of damage and more SCVs are coming. They could easily take down this pylon, significantly delaying the build of McRave's. And McRave is now trying to fight off with the probe these Marines, but there are also SCVs and Marines doing a lot of damage, and there is simply no combat unit for McRave. So McRave in a bit of trouble. The SCVs are back. And the one Marine is back as well. There is one Goon now, but it can't really do much. The Vultures are in among the main, and as soon as a combat unit will hit this area, it will explode. So Iron is really bringing the pressure to McRave, and McRave cannot get out from all this. Oh, that was not good. It needs units, but it's only got 1 gateway, and McRave is building off 2 factories. Iron is building off 2 factories, got double the workers, and is tearing down the main base. All the workers of McRave are lost, and Iron is taking this game in style. What a monster. McRave saving some money for an occasional probe as soon as everything's safe again, but I don't think we'll be seeing that this game. So, yeah, there we go. And let's hop into the next game. Oh, I've got 4 more games. Hello, this broadcast is going to be dandy fine. And I've got this game, 4-Spot versus SkyNet by Andrew Smith. And that's going to be interesting because 4-Spot has been working hard. We've seen some excellent lurker play and a muter play. And it's, I think, the best bot of the Gold Project of the Technical University of Delft, which is my home country, so will be interesting to see how it's going to play out. And it holds the first push of Zealots. More Zealots, of course, are coming, but by now the Sunken is up, and there are a couple of, I think there are a couple of Lings somewhere. They should be coming anytime soon, because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a problem. This Zealot is going to die, but... Oh, we've got 2 Hydras now. So 2 Hydras and a half-dead, dead Sunken. Oh, and the Sunken lives. And this one Zealot, I think the Hydras should take care that this Sunken doesn't die. Taking some hits on the Hydra, that's good. We've got 4 Hydras now, and versus Zealots. Hydras are a good counter, although they aren't really fighting all of them. And SkyNet is going for another gateway. So, doing okay. The Scouting Probe's still there. That's very obnoxious, but the Sunken lives, and by now we've got about 7 Hydras, which is good. Have we got any upgrades? We haven't got any upgrades. But the Zealots are sort of being absorbed into this defensive position, occasionally dealing 1 hit or 2 hits to the Hydras, but nothing major. And now SkyNet is taking the 3rd, and it's really a pity that SkyNet isn't being updated anymore, because it's such a monster. This is from 2013 and has been the dominant non-carrier bot for ages. That is not really something you should do, because you can easily lose 2 Hydras to 1 Zealot. And if you are going to move out your Hydras, you should do it in a group or take a 3rd base. You just got to out-macro the enemy. But now the Hydras are fighting off Goons, and I really cannot see why SkyNet would send its units in 1 at a time. I think this Overlord is going to be all for it. The Corsair is going to be attacked, or no, it isn't. And now these Hydras are getting low and still continuing their march across the map, which I really shouldn't recommend. 4-Spot going for more hatcheries, and I like that, because as I said earlier when I saw the game of Brian Weber, you need those hatcheries, because as a Zerg, if you haven't got the larvae, you can't really produce. And now all the Overlords are being mown down by these Sairs. Taking damage, I think, is the good decision. Hovering over a couple of Hydras while doing nothing isn't. And that's very atypical of SkyNet. And SkyNet doesn't really care. It's going to pour out units from all its gateways and from the starport, and occasionally taking the fight. Now with more larvae and more workers, 4-Spot is doing quite well. Is not really getting any kind of army together, but can hold off the Protoss for some time more. That should really be doing something better, because Protoss is going to get out of control. It's going to tech up, it's going to build upgrades and take more bases. Here is the third already started, and as a Zerg, attacking Protoss with 1 or 2 Hydras at a time is just not going to work, and these Hydras are going to die 1 or 2 at a time, and the Corsairs are going to wreak havoc. Oh dear, now with 2 Lurkers, that's good, and they're going to do a lot of damage. The Hydras, of course, are going to die again. Oh, and that was an unfortunate decision to morph Hydra into a Lurker when there were Corsairs flying overhead, but the Lurker seems to have things nicely down. This base cannot be taken by this probe. The third base being taken by Forcebot. And what I also like about Forcebot is that its APM is relatively low. It doesn't abuse the worker hard as strict, which you can do as an AI. But oh, then again, lots of damage being done by these Lurkers in the middle of the map. These Protoss units will arrive without shields. The downside is that they still arrive, and they should really be taken care of more completely. But with so many Lurkers out, these Protoss gateway units don't really stand a chance. And it will be a little while yet before we'll see any kind of observers. That's the robo facility, that will be the observatory. And by then there will be a lot of Lurkers out on the map, and this Zealot isn't even going to get through anymore. There are so many oh god, no. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Still some small recommendations for Forcebot. Don't walk into cannons with Lurkers or any kind of unit, just try to attack them. And they have found this base now, so they are trying to attack this base. And I would really like to see how this is being done by the goal instruction set. These 2 Lurkers are going to run in, and they are hopefully going to wait until their friends arrive, and then make a good hit at the third. And Zerg now taking a 4th base. SkyNet sitting back, not really having much of an army. I don't know what's going on there. It's got a lot of infrastructure, a lot of technology, small army, but there is a High Templar out now. And have we got Storm? Yes, we have got Storm. Meanwhile, this encampment of 4 cannons is being torn down by the Hydras and the Lurkers, so that's good. And although the Hydras are moving relatively a lot and not really attacking, have we got upgrades? We've only got Zergling speed, so with Hydra speed and range this might be even better. And the Protoss reinforcements cut down the Zerg reinforcements, so it's only 1 base that's going to be lost. And hopefully they'll tear down this base before they can be torn to pieces. We've got 1 Storm left, and we've got an Observer, so by now we've only got 2 Lurkers left over there. And I think they don't have enough DPS to take down this Nexus, or will they? Because if this Observer is going to be there, and the first Lurker is cut up, the second one will be 2, and this Observer is going to be targeted, and you can see how slow these Hydras are, so that's unfortunate. Upgrade-wise, Zerg doing okay, but should really get the Evolution Chamber upgrades as well as the speed upgrades for the Hydras. Worker-wise, being in a splendid position, 60 workers, that's really nice to see this from Forcebot, and I can only applaud the amount of effort that's being put into this piece of coding. And this Observer is going to live-ish. And now it's a bit of a lull in the battle. Nicely positioned Observer. These Hydras are trying to attack it, but they haven't got the range. Oh, they've got some Evolution Chamber upgrades now, and the APM for Forcebot is rising. And I really appreciate that. And this base is being hit. Oh, and that's a pretty good Storm, and with the Observer I think Protoss can clear it. Unfortunately the Observer runs off, so that's not really all that good. And all the Hydras are trying to target this Observer here, but it's found a spot where it can stay relatively unharmed, and all these Hydras are being locked up. The Overlords are making a push versus a Goon, which isn't working. And SkyNet is taking another base to continue its war of aggression. SkyNet isn't really getting a large army together, and that may be in part due to this Hydra force, which is now out on the map. And I think... no, that's not Hydra speed. Hydra upgrades, weapons 2 times, Ling, adrenal glands, and that means we've got a Hive, so that's all the tech. Tech is there, we haven't got a Spire or a Defiler Mount, but that's a lot of Hydras, and as a Protoss you really are going to have to work hard to stop that. Lots of Storms available, But Protoss should be careful and not really blast them all on a couple of stray Hydras. But I think this base is all for it. And 4-spot with the army, but it's very, very small. It really needs more hatcheries at this point, because you can see it's got 4k, 3k minerals, and that could have been a lot of Zerglings or Hydras or whatever. And we've got an Ultra too, so that's very nice. 2 Ultras, and Protoss in a lot of trouble. SkyNet is not really playing as good as I think it would, but I still think that 4-spot is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Look at all these Hydras, and although they stall a little bit in the middle of the map, that's very unfortunate. That's the Ultra Armor, and with the +1, +2 nearly done, that's going to be a major, major problem. And now with the Ultras and the Lurkers, the Ultras can take so much of a beating, and the Hydras and the Lurkers will provide the DPS. So composition-wise, that could be a little bit better. A couple of Ultras with Zerglings for the DPS, of course. And Protoss is out. Now Zerg stuck at 198, for some reason not building another Overlord. Lots of money in the bank, hasn't got a Defiler mount, would like to see that. But, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, that is a massive Zerg army, and I really must say that 4-spot is impressing me by taking down SkyNet, but it should now be taking down the main base of the Protoss as well. Having maxed finally, upgrade wise, putting all the stops, ultra speed, ultra armor, nothing for Hydras, and although Hydra play was a major component of its path to victory, very few Hydra upgrades, and this one goon is very wise to run away from this. I think that it's very unkind if your AI doesn't have the ability to type out, to call the GG, because this goon is going to be, yeah, there it goes. So very unfortunate. 4-spot all over this. We'll be watching it closely because, as I say, it's looking right impressive. And Litterbot, I am so curious to see what he's going to do for the 2017 finals. Deadline the 20th of December, which is about 1.5 weeks from now. So don't miss it. Litterbot, or at least Martin, its author, has been working on StarCraft 2 AIs as well. So I don't know if he's going to present an update for the 2017 finals, which will start in the Christmas holiday. But still a force to be reckoned with. And this is going to be a little bit hard to cast because it is Gambot, which will take a lot of bases all over the map and then just A-move units into the enemy. But Litterbot, never underestimate it. It's always fear cheese and don't underestimate its standard play, because if it gets rolling and if Martin gets its build orders together, it can really be very, very dangerous. 4th base already being taken before the 3rd is done for Gambot. Gambot rather low on the workers, 4 bases, 16 workers. That's quite a well, how do you say? It's not really optimal, but the effect can be quite funny. And Litterbot playing it safe with a handful of Marines, 2 bunkers, and you can see now on the minimap units are streaming in left and right, and although 2 spits for a Hydra at the bunker is not that much, it means that Zerg can take more bases. This 5th base is about to be taken. That's the 4th base, sort of up and running with 1 worker. 3rd base has got 4 workers, and Gambot is now saving money, I think, for the 5th base. And Terran can save up a large army and then move out, but by then it might have to contend with attacks from all angles, and that might be a little bit of a problem. So you can see a round of drones for Gambot now. 23 drones, that's still not an awful lot. Drone saturation is pretty low, building all kinds of combat units without really having the economy to support it. And it also means that the vultures of Litterbot can't really move out because there is so much going on, and it's being chased back to base. Takes a spit from the Hydra and now moving out again with half HP. And Gambot starting the 5th base already. So upgrade wise, it's got a lair, it's got a Hydra den, hasn't got any upgrades, no upgrades at all. Range and +1 for Litterbot, or +1 already, only starting, and now building a couple of turrets. And you can see if you put pressure on the enemy, even if it's as disorganized as the pressure of Gambot, the enemy gets the idea that it's under pressure and can't move out. So 5th base 6th base for Garm, and going to speed it up just a notch. Leaderbot now moving out. It's got quite a sizable army, 62 army supplies, Stim Bio with a couple of tanks and a science vessel of course. The 5th base is operational, but there is nothing for Zerg that could stop this. There is a Spire. And here comes the army, and it rolls down the natural with ease. The army supply is 85 versus about 5. Main base going to be torn down, and that is a sore blow to Garmbot. Now Garmbot still keeps taking bases all across the map, and I'm doing this at ridiculous speed. Leaderbot taking down all kinds of bases at once. I like that. These SCVs staying over here, don't know why. We've got a battle cruiser, a couple of science vessels, tanks, lots of queens, but not really nothing dangerous for Leaderbot. Leaderbot's got 136 army supply. Leaderbot is in control of this game, and Garm is really struggling. Now only 2 bases left, and there is a Terran army here which is horribly stuck, and 1 army there which is still on the move. And Garmbot has got now 2 bases, building a 3rd, and Leaderbot has sort of dropped dead and is now moving out, has found another base, and this base is going to be torn down as well. Garmbot on 2 bases only. Leaderbot has got the map, isn't really mining as efficiently, but if you have got a bank like this, why should you? And Garmbot is just keeping... What the... The Terran army is here, and there are all kinds of units all over the map, and Leaderbot is not defending. Leaderbot's army is sitting here, it's stuck. Some marines are moving over, but all kinds of buildings are being torn down by a handful of Zerglings and Hydras and 1 Lurker. And that cannot be good. Now, the Lurker is going to do quite well with the help of a couple of Zerglings. This Zergling backup's coming too late. But look at all the buildings which have been demolished already. That's really sick. This tank is going to snuff it as well at the hands of the Zerglings. So Garmbot is still in this and has expanded to the bottom of the map again. And that's mainly due to Leaderbot being stupid in the middle of the map with his main army. So Garm taking more bases, and the queens, some queens are still out there, flapping about, taking the occasional hit with the broodlings. And you can see broodlings in here as well. The main army for Terran is still sitting here. There is a huge bank, but Leaderbot isn't building any depots or any kind of supply, so it can't build any more. Only when something gets killed. And Garmbot will be Garmbot. It will just re-expand, take the map, mine stuff, send units in one at a time. We've even got Ultra, and that's pretty impressive. The Ultra is going to die at the hands of SCVs, or is it going to live? I can't see its hit points. Oh, it's going to die at the hands of these Marines. But Leaderbot still at 174 supply. The main base, although, is going to fall, which will mean that its supply count, its max supply, is going to fall as well. And now there are some Marines being sent over to help. The Guardian is going to take a lot of Marines down before dying. That's really impressive. And this Lurker takes a couple of more Marines more. The main army of Leaderbot still sitting here, still not really feeling the pain of the Zerg army, because there is a battle cruiser overhead, and this Ultra is going to tear down the Marines. And as soon as these depots start dying, it's going to be a major problem for Zerg, because then Leaderbot isn't really rebuilding anything at the moment. And Garmbot is filtering units in one at a time, and you can see it is running away with this. It's trying to take this base with 2 workers at once, which isn't really working. But as soon as Lita has run out of money here, it will no longer be able to build Marines and defend the main base, and then it will all go downhill. The main army is still sitting there, and it's unbelievable. There is a Lurker with 0 HP trying to take stuff down. This Hydra is doing stuff, but it's not really coming together. And now we've got Guardians, we've got Ultras, we've got a Lurker, or we'll have a Lurker soon. And Leaderbot's army, Leaderbot is producing from all factories and all barracks, but you can see another depot has been torn down. And with the Guardians overhead, every Marine that pops out takes 2 Guardian balls and dies. So that's very unfortunate. And now we've got this Lurker encampment with a couple of Hydras and a couple of Zerglings, and all the depots are going to go down so fast. which will mean that Litterbot is going to be supply stuck relatively quickly, and also the production is going to fall to tatters, and that's really unfortunate. Now only 70, 60, and the supply is falling, at least the supply of the building supply. The supply depots are falling, and Gambot taking down the main base, and now the third, and the main army is still here. It can still fight. It's not really as big anymore. There are queens overhead and all kinds of units, and occasionally a marine dies and another marine dies, and this is the last stand. The battle cruiser falls. Terran army is completely haywire, and Litterbot dropped the ball big time this game. It's a good game for Gambot. So GG. And that was, which game was this? Oh, sorry. No, sorry, McRae. I've got one more game. It's Stone versus Wilbot. I don't know why it got recommended to me, but it's going to be interesting, I think. And oh god, yeah, this Stone is the SCV rushing bot, which is a major problem. And the question is, will Wilbot get out of this? I assume yes, because the game is going on for a little while longer. Worker defense seems to be on point. And now all the drones are back, and the SCVs are going to take a while. So perhaps Wilbot may be able to get up a spawning pool and work it from there. The SCVs, though, are going to increase in number. Oh, and is now supply stuck. So this is the maximum level of SCVs you're going to have to deal with. Worker-wise, Wilbot is ahead, now going for the spawning pool. And this... sorry. Oh dear. Help! Oh damn. Sorry about that. I screwed this up. Yeah, there it is. So now it should be okay again. Speeding up the initial... Oh, that's my grade first. I'm bot, sorry. Stone versus Wilbot, take 2. Okay, so... Oh god, I suck at this. So here we were. The creep colony was started, and now the spawning pool started as well, being attacked by this SCV, by 3 SCVs. The workers come off to help. That's pretty good worker defense for a new bot. Wilbot, very well done. The spawning pool's up, and so will the sunken be. And we've got some zerglings as well. And I think there's going to be another hatchery and another sunken. So with 2 sunkens, you are going to be pretty safe versus an SCV rushing bot. That means that it's going to take a little while, but you can see also that these SCVs aren't all being sent over. The economy of Stone is going to increase as well. You can see it already having about 300 minerals, and it should really be thinking of taking another base, building another command center to build more SCVs. The SCVs don't really dare to get in, and Wilbot is still stuck on one base, so... Oh, yep, there we go. Another base being taken by Stone. And Wilbot, what's it going to do? Going for a lair? Perhaps going for lurkers? You never know. 2 SCVs have snuck in. They are repairing each other, so that's good. And I really like the concept, and it shows you how hard it is to code this AI to detect and shut down something as simple as a worker rush. And now the main base is clear, but the natural, or the second base I should say rather, is up now. And Wilbot, what's it going to do? Not very much. There are a lot of workers out at the choke. Workers, yeah, and lurkers for Zerg, so should be easy to pick this Terran thing apart. And the occasional worker incursion doesn't really do much. And now Zerg has had enough, is moving out, at least a little bit. We've got one more base for Terran, and SCVs approaching from all directions, and it's a bit of a slaughter. Army supply, of course, 0 for Stone. Worker supply about 30, 40. And Zerg now taking control of its own natural, which is pretty well done. 30 army supply and 3 bases up for Terran. That's very interesting. And yeah, SCVs versus lurkers is not really a fight you'd like to choose. Especially not if there are about 4 stacked lurkers. They will instantly kill all the SCVs sent to attack them. One more base for iron, and will that be enough? Because that's a lot of SCVs. Unfortunately, they will never be able to touch the lurkers, and the lurkers will have lots of kills by now. The SCVs and Wilbot playing it very safe. Stone taking another pace in the sphere of influence of Zerg. Oh god, here we go. We're going to see a hive of 2 bases, and Zerg really can't make up its mind. We saw that with the Terran of Wilbot earlier. It really does not like to attack for some reason. It's rather disinclined to do so. And although it's got a bit of work, it's got 30. There are now 70 workers for Stone. And that's another Evo chamber. Oh, and an Ultra Cavern. So will we see Ultras versus SCVs? Oh, that's a nice place to take another base. It's good that the SCVs haven't spotted it. And I can imagine, as you've got a Hydra army, and I don't think there are... Oh, there are some upgrades. That's good. With Hydra speed and no Hydra range, unfortunately. It's very hard to attack this SCV wall because every SCV is going to get repaired. And that is going to be hard to kill unless you've got some kind of splash damage, which you have got here. 4 lurkers, and now we've got a couple of ultras as well. So we've got a Zerg army supply of about 70, 105 SCVs, and the question is, will Stone max out on SCVs? It's got all the bases taken, so it can produce quite a lot of them. We've got 129, 130. Will it break 140? It's like watching the Bitcoin course. As soon as the Zerg army moves out, it's going to suffer tremendously. A 140, and we've got masses of SCVs. Zerg is being pushed back, but also here. 150, 150, 60, 160, 170, nothing really, and Zerg really can't. Oh, it's taking down a base now, that's good. It's taking down a base, which is good, taking down another base, and Wilbot, with the army supply of about 100 with Ultras and Hydras and Lurkers, versus the SCVs, that's really crazy. This... Oh dear, oh dear. And still we've got 130 SCVs, because Stone is just producing SCVs from everywhere. And building another command center in all of this carnage. Zerg is sort of maxed. No other units, no defilers, something, no guardians. And still, its main base is blocked in, or its natural choke is blocked in. You can see all the Zerg units from everywhere. The SCVs are at this point running from them, but there are so many, and Zerg will have to it's like watching Gambot, but then the Terran version, and the main Zerg army is now going to sit here. For reasons... Oh, now it's going to go out again. And Stone could also produce from these buildings, but isn't doing so for reasons. And it's going to lose another base, and I think that Zerg will finally have it. It's got a huge bank of only 3 bases, and is taking down the last building. So this will, I think, be the GG. Wilbot over Stone. And then I've got one more game. Didn't I have that already? 4 spot versus Lita. Let's see how it's going to play out. I've got such a bad memory these days that I can't really reliably say if I haven't cast the game or not. 4 spot going for a Hydra army, this time keeping it together. Lita bot being rather safe up at the top of the ramp. And I must say that Lita bot's build orders are a little bit old-fashioned. 3rd base being taken by 4 spot, I like that. And it's going to take an awful long while before the conflict is going to be there. Now with 2 lurkers on the low ground, and although Lita bot's got scans and a science vessel, these lurkers are in such a good position that they can take a lot of hits. These marines can't quite range them. This tank can, but then the science vessel is over there. And this one is in range, so it dies. But immediately, as soon as the unit stands here, it will be a volley of 3 spines taking stuff down. Another lurker is being sent. Worker transfer, 3 versus 1 base. And the lurker contain is still sort of there. But now the lurkers appear to die, and this one isn't going to be safe either because it's in range. doing a lot of damage. And I wonder... Yeah, there it goes. So now Litterbot is in control of the ramp again, but it's blocking itself in by these medics. Which is not good. So Forcebot is what the... building a ball of Hydras, now taking a 4th base, and building still more Hydras. That's really insane. And trying to contain Litterbot with Lurkers. Now Litterbot is moving out. Will the Hydra ball attack or respond? That's the question. And the Hydra ball will sort of respond, but not really. It will try to be a ball again, and that's not really working. This tank is taking down lots of Hydras. And the only things which are fighting are the Lurkers, and the Hydras are all over this. Forcebot taking more bases, but the Hydras aren't really fighting, and Litterbot is still stuck in there because of the medics and can't really take a 4th base. And there is... yeah, well, there are irradiates, so that should be good. But the main is mined out, the minerals are all gone, and it's blocked in, and Forcebot is trying to take this base. Oh, we've got a secondary Hydra ball growing, so that's good. And Forcebot is maxed. We've got 2 Hydra balls and occasional Lurker attacks on the base here. And this one Vulture is killing stuff very quickly. And Forcebot is building a huge amount of Overlords. Let me check that. It's still building them 5 at the time. And lots of buildings all over the place. It's got 120 Overlords, and still this one Vulture is trying its utmost to harass this base. But for some reason it's not really working, because Forcebot isn't really reinforcing it. And Forcebot is sending over workers, and these larvae are dying as well. It's got 163, almost 170 Overlords for reasons, and it's got the money, so why not? It's just not really helping at this point, because it's going to hit 200 soon, and then we'll have an easy sum to do. It will be 200 times 8 is 1600 supply available. Of course, it's capped at 200 by the game, so it can't really be of any use. And now the drones are getting transferred because all the bases are going to mine out, and this is a forest of Overlords. It's really out of this world. It's God. And they're also patrolling or doing stuff. And we've got 250. That's 2000 supply for reasons. And Litterbot is still stuck because the medics and only 1 Vulture is out. And I would really like to know how many kills that Vulture's got, because it must be an awful lot. And all the workers it's got are now being transferred. We've got 132 workers which are being all congregated here for, oh no, 53, 144 Hydras. Hydras are still being built as well, but by now we've almost got 300 Overlords. 300 Overlords is 2,400 supply of about, that's 2,200 oversupply, and that's really, really weird. So this game, it must not have... It's still running, and I'm playing it at 64 times the speed, 293 Overlords, and the medics die, and this Vulture is still out killing stuff. Forcebot has stopped building units, thank God, but unfortunately we haven't hit the 300 mark. It's got a lot of larvae, 35 for... And there is a large portion of Hydras. It's got 108 Hydras, 94 Zerglings. it's really crazy. And this Lurker, I should really look this game up in normal Brute War, not in OpenBW, to see how many kills it's got. And it's really boggling me. This game is still running. And I think it's a good game to end the broadcast with. It times out, and I really wouldn't know who won this, because Litterbot has killed so many units. But the final score is 94 Zerglings, 108 Hydras, 293 Overlords versus a small Terran army which got stuck because the medics were in front and refused to budge. So this was this week's broadcast of the Student StarCraft AI tournament. Submission deadline for the finals is the 20th of December. and we recommend you upload your bot a couple of days before at least to make sure it runs and the libraries are okay. The read-write system is working as you'd like, and of course Crazio is still the bot to beat. One last time, please support us on Patreon, not only for the upkeep of the server and the hosting costs, but also to help and support the research group of Michael Chertitsky and his students. So thank you again for watching. We'll hope to be here again next week, and hope to see you then. Oh, and keep the games coming, because please send them to me at my email address, which is nepetanigra@yahoo.com. Thank you very much, and see you again next week. Goodbye!